Hey guys, I am really tired. I just got back from visiting my great grandma. Um, she lives like an hour and a half away, so we left at like 8 this morning, and we stayed there for a while, which is nice, and then we drove all the way back home. I'm just really tired. Started a new anxiety medicine on Friday. It seems like it's working okay, but it's just, I have to get used to it. I'm still transitioning, and it's still a little difficult. Um, okay. So I'm taking this online psychology class, right? And so the class is 7 weeks. And so that means with like each week we have to write an essay or whatever, do an assignment, something like that. And this week we had to do a group assignment. So if you think group assignments in a traditional, like on ground, like actually talking to people classroom is hard, try doing a group assignment online. Really difficult. Yeah, that's all that's really going on for me. But since last time I read a story, a fairy tale turned out, I decided that I liked it and I would keep it a thing to, with each vlog I would read part of a fairy tale or like a Greek fairy tale or whatever. Starting now, we are going to read the story of King Arthur and his knights as interpreted by the lovely Howard Pyle. I don't know if that's how you say his name. We're going to begin with part 1, which is the story of Arthur and Guinevere. There's a lot of English names in here that I don't really quite know how to pronounce, so bear with me. So part 1, Arthur and Guinevere. Chapter 1, The Sword and the Anvil. In ancient days there lived a very noble king named Uther Pendragon, and he became overlord of all of Britain. This king was greatly aided unto the achievement of the Pendragonship of the realm by the help of 2 men. One of these men was a certain very powerful enchanter and prophet known as Merlin the Wise, and he gave very good counsel unto Uther Pendragon. The other man was a renowned knight, hight Uthus, and he gave Uther Pendragon aid and advice in battle. So Uther Pendragon was able to overcome all of his enemies and to become king of the entire realm. After Uther Pendragon had ruled his kingdom for a number of years, he took to wife a certain beautiful lady, hight Igraine. This noble dame was the widow of Duke Gerlois, by which prince she had 2 daughters, one of whom was named Marguerite and the other Morgana le Fay, and Morgana le Fay was a famous sorceress. These daughters the queen brought with her to the court of Uther Pendragon, and there Marguerite was wedded to King Urien of Gore, and Morgana le Fay was wedded to King Lot of Orkney. Now after a while Uther Pendragon and Queen Igraine had a son born unto them, and he was very beautiful and of great size and strength of bone. And with the child still lay wrapped in his swaddling clothes, Merlin came to Uther Pendragon with a great spirit of prophecy strong upon him, and he said, Lord, it is given unto me to foresee that shortly thou shalt die of a fever. Now should such a dolorous thing befall, this child, who is certes the hope of this realm, will be in great danger of his life, for many enemies will rise up to seize his inheritance, and either he will be slain, or else he will be held in captivity, from which he shall hardly hope to escape. Wherefore I beseech thee that thou wilt permit Sir Rufus and myself to convey him away to some secret place, where he may be hidden until he groweth to manhood. When Merlin had made an end of speaking thus, Uther Pendragon made reply. Merlin, certes, if thy prophecy be true, then indeed this child should be conveyed hence to some safe place. Wherefore I pray thee perform thy will. Merlin did as he had advised, and he and Sir Rufus conveyed the child away by night. And shortly afterward Uther Pendragon was seized with sickness and died, exactly as Merlin had foretold. Then all the realm fell into great disorder, for each lesser king contended against his fellow for overlordship, and wicked knights and barons harried the highways and levied toll upon helpless wayfarers. Thus 3 years passed. Thus there passed nearly 18 years in great affliction, and then one day the Archbishop of Canterbury summoned Merlin to him and bespake him. Merlin, men say that thou art the wisest man in the world. Canst thou find some means to heal the distraction of this woeful realm? Canst thou choose a king who shall be a fit overlord for us, so that we may enjoy happiness as we did in the days of Uther Pendragon? Then Merlin lifted up his countenance upon the Archbishop, and he said, My lord, I do perceive that this country is soon to have a king who shall be wiser and greater and more worthy of all praise than was even Uther Pendragon, and he shall bring order and peace, and moreover this king shall be of Uther Pendragon's own full royal blood. To this the Archbishop said, What thou tellest me, Merlin, is a wonderful strange thing, but many lesser kings would fain be overlord of this land. How then shall we know the real king from those who proclaim themselves to be the rightful king? My lord Archbishop, quoth Merlin, if I have thy leave to exert my magic, I shall set an adventure, which, if any man achieve it, all the world shall know that he is the rightful king. And to this the Archbishop said, Merlin, I bid thee do so. So Merlin caused by magic that a huge marble stone, 4 square, should appear in an open place before the greatest church of London. Upon this block of marble there stood an anvil, and into the anvil there was thrust a great sword, midway deep of the blade. And this sword was the most wonderful that any man had ever seen, for the blade was of blue steel and extraordinarily bright, and the hilt was of gold inlaid with a great number of precious stones. And about the sword were written these words in letters of gold, Whosoever pulleth out this sword from the anvil, that same is rightwise king born of England. Then Merlin bade the Archbishop to call together all chief people of that land upon Christmas tide, and he bade them command that every man should make essay to draw the sword out of the anvil, for that he who should succeed should rightwise be king of Britain. Thus the mandate of the Lord Archbishop went forth, summoning people to the essay, and as Christmas tide drew nigh, it appeared as though the entire world was wending its way toward London town. The highways and byways became filled with kings and lords and knights and ladies and esquires and pages and men-at-arms. Every inn and castle was full of travelers, and everywhere were tents and pavilions pitched for the accommodation of those who could not find shelter within doors. Now among those who came unto London town there was a certain knight, very honourable, by name of Sir Ector of Bon Mason. This knight had with him 2 sons, and the elder of these was Sir Kay, a young knight of great valour and promise, and the younger was a lad of 18 years of age, by name of Arthur. Sir Ector had also with him a great number of retainers and esquires and pages. And when he had come to London town, he went to a meadow where many other noble knights had already established themselves, and there he set up a fair pavilion of green silk, and erected his banner, emblazoned with the device of his house, to wit, a griffin, black, upon a field of green. Hold on. And upon this meadow were a multitude of pavilions of many colors, and above each was the pennant and the banner of that lord to whom the pavilion belonged. Wherefore the sky was at places well nigh hidden with gaudy colors of the fluttering flag. And by now there were in London no less than 12 knights and 7 dukes, so that, what with their courts of lords and ladies and esquires and pages in attendance, the town of London had never seen the like before. Now the Archbishop of Canterbury, having in mind the extraordinary state of the occasion that had brought together so many kings and dukes and lords, had commanded that there should be a noble tournament proclaimed. Likewise he commanded that this contest of arms should be held in a certain field nigh to the great church, 3 days before the essay should be made of the sword and the anvil. To this tournament were bidden all knights who were of sufficient birth and quality to fit them to take place therein. Accordingly, so many exalted knights made application for admission that 3 heralds were kept busy looking into their pretensions unto the right of battle. For these heralds examined the escutcheons and rolls of lineage of all the applicants with great care. Now Sir Kay went to that congress of heralds and submitted his pretensions unto them, and after they had examined into his claims of knighthood, they entered his name as a knight contestant. Sir Kay then chose his young brother Arthur to be his esquire at arms on the field of battle, and Arthur was exceedingly glad because of the honor had never befallen him. Now the day having arrived when this tourney was to be held, not less than 20,000 lords and ladies assembled at the field of battle, so that it appeared as though a solid wall of human souls surrounded that meadow. And in the center of this wonderful court there was erected a throne for the Lord Archbishop. Above the throne was a canopy of purple cloth emblazoned with silver lilies, and under this the Archbishop sat in great estate. Now when all the great assembly were at their places, a herald stood forth before the throne of the Archbishop, and blew a very strong blast upon a trumpet. At that signal the turnpikes of the lists were opened, and the 2 parties of knights contestants entered therein, the one party at the northern extremity of the meadow, and the other party at the southern extremity thereof. Then all that field was a glitter with polished armor as these 2 parties took up its station. Then the herald blew upon his trumpet a second time, and each of these parties of knights quitted its station and rushed forth against the other. They did this with such noise and fury that the earth groaned beneath the feet of the war horses, and when the 2 companies met in the midst of the field, the roar of breaking lances was so terrible that those who heard it were appalled. Several fair dames swooned away with terror, and others shrieked aloud, for not only was there a great uproar, but the air was filled with splinters of wood that flew about. In the famous assault 70 honorable knights were overthrown, wherefore the 2 companies withdrew each to its station. The ground was covered all over with broken fragments of lances and armor, and many knights were woefully lying in the midst of that wreck. To these ran divers of esquires and pages, and lifted upon the fallen men and bare them away. And attendants ran and gathered up the broken armor and the spears and bare them away, so that the field was cleared once more. Then all those who gazed upon the meadow gave loud acclaim, for such a glorious contest at arms and friendly essay had hardly ever been beheld in that realm before. Now in this assault Sir Kay had conducted himself with such credit that no knight who was there had done better than he. For though 2 opponents at once had directed their spears against him, yet he had successfully resisted their assault. And one of those 2 he smote so violently that he lifted the assailant entirely over the crupper of the horse which he rode. So Sir Kay was wonderfully well satisfied and pleasant at heart. Now the 2 parties in array returned each to its assigned station, and when they had come, each knight delivered up his spear unto his esquire. for the next assault was to be undertaken with swords. Accordingly, when the herald again blew upon his trumpet, there was a great splendor of blades all flashing in the air at once. And when the herald blew a second time, each party pushed forward to the contest. In this affair, likewise, Sir Kay proved himself to be an extraordinary champion, for he violently smote down 5 knights, the one after the other, ere he was swayed in his advance. But when he struck a 6th knight, his sword blade snapped short at the haft with the fierceness of the blow. In this pass it would have gone very ill with Sir Kay, but that 3 of his companions in arms pressed in betwixt him and his opponent. Thus Sir Kay was able to escape to the barrier. Now when he reached the barrier, his esquire, young Arthur, came running to him. Sir Kay cried out, "Ho, brother, give me another sword from our father's pavilion." And Arthur said, "I will do so." And thereupon he leaped over the barrier and ran to his father's pavilion. But when he came to the pavilion, he found no one there, for all the attendants were at their tournament. Neither could he find any sword, wherefore he was put to a great pass to know what to do. In this extremity he bethought of him that sword that stood thrust into the anvil before the church, whereupon he ran thither with all speed. And when he had come there, he discovered that no one was upon guard of the block of marble, for all were at the contest of arms. So young Arthur leaped upon the block of marble, and laid his hands unto the hilt of the sword, and he bent his body and drew upon the sword, and lo! It came forth from the anvil with wonderful smoothness. And he wrapped the sword in his cloak, so that no one might see it, for it shone with exceeding brightness, and he hastened unto Sir Kay. Now when Sir Kay beheld the sword, he immediately knew it, and he wist not what to think. Then in a while he said in a very strange voice, "Where got he that sword?" And Arthur beheld that his brother's countenance was greatly disturbed, and he said, "Brother, I could find no sword in our father's pavilion, wherefore I bethought me of that sword that stood in the anvil before the church, so I went hither and drew it forth." Then Sir Kay communed with himself, "Oh, my brother is hardly more than a child, and he is exceedingly innocent. Therefore he knoweth not what he hath done, nor what the doing thereof signify. Now since he hath achieved this weapon, why should I not lay claim to the achievement?" Whereupon he said to Arthur, "Give the sword and cloak to me." And when Arthur had done so, Sir Kay said, "Tell no man of this, but go to our father, where he sits, and list, and bid him come straightway unto our pavilion." That's the end of the first chapter. We'll get the next chapter with the next vlog. Stay gold. Love you.